of the Giant Killers, Reser Stadium, Corvallis, Oregon. ESPN's College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers. Fourth-ranked undefeated Stanford brings the nation's longest winning streak on the road to Corvallis. Andrew Luck and Stanford surviving in triple overtime a week ago with USC. And now the Oregon State Beavers hope to take down another top 10 foe in Corvallis. Welcome to Oregon State in Corvallis. I'm Carter Blackburn, but former all-packed-in quarterback at the University of Washington, Brock Heward. So you know as well as anybody, Brock, the media types always focus on the quarterback. Certainly that is deserved for Andrew Luck, but head coach David Shaw says we are much more than Andrew Luck.
They sure are, and right now they're going to have to deal with a difficult loss of that much more, and that's tight end Zach Ertz. So what do they do to make up in his absence? Well, you open up the deepest playbook in college football. A playbook that happens to feature a play when you're down 10 in the biggest game of the year. Well, let's just go Wildcat, flea flicker, and throw it to a true freshman 60 yards down the field. It's also a playbook diverse enough to put 6 big hogs on that field and run your power play action pass. And when you have a quarterback capable of handling that playbook like Andrew Luck, well, you execute at the high level the Cardinal do.
Andrew Luck lost on his last trip here to Corvallis. In fact, Stanford has lost 8 of their last 9 games in the state of Oregon. So there is certainly a history of upsets, especially here in Corvallis. A very young Oregon State team, already 6 losses on the season.
Mike Riley pointed to that victory back in 2009, said we scored on every possession in the first half. Well, that has to be the recipe this afternoon.
Corvallis, Reser Stadium, it has been home of the Giant Killers in recent years. Their eyes on another big target today. In 2008, it was #1 USC finding out about the Giant Killers. Jaquiz Rogers, 2 touchdowns in that game, 186 yards. Beavers up 21 points at the half, and then Mark Sanchez with a late interception. Oregon State, for the first time in 41 years, knocks off a #1. That was on a Thursday night in 2008. But it has happened 5 times over the past decade where a top 10 team has come here to Reser Stadium in Corvallis and left with a loss, an upset to Oregon State. Now, again, as we say, Brock, this is an Oregon State team with 6 losses on the year, so it's a different Oregon State team certainly than that 2008 bunch, but there's a history, and Mike Riley, despite the losses, feels really good about this football team.
And you were out here with me yesterday watching that walkthrough practice. You would not have ever guessed this was a 2-6 football team, and that's what Mike said. Tough losses, absolutely, this season, but this group knows how to put them behind them, practice well. He felt like they had a wonderful week of practice, and he knows what he's up against in David Shaw's Cardinal this afternoon.
Stanford 8-0, 6-0 in the Pac-12 North Division, a 16-game winning streak, the nation's longest. Oregon State won the toss, the Beavers defer, so Luck and the Cardinal offense will get it first. 4th-ranked undefeated Stanford on the road at Oregon State. This is Ty Montgomery on the return across the 25 for the Cardinal. Let's look at our Chick-fil-A impact players on this side of the ball. I wonder who we're going to feature.
That's going to start with the front runner. That is Andrew Luck. I love what Pep Hamilton said about his quarterback. Never emotionally hijacked. He's got to get his team emotionally ready to play. He'll hand it to Stephon Taylor early and often. The every down back for the Cardinal. A model of consistency with 1,100-yard gains defensively on the edge. Watch Scott Crichton. Relentless motor, great leverage. That's why he's second in the conference in tackles for loss.
Play action on first down. Luck rolling and throwing to Cody Fleener across the 35 to get to the 39-yard line before Michael Doctor makes the stop.
Pretty remarkable when you dig into Andrew Luck and his first down passing. Over 80% this season, and that is why so many teams stack that box, put a lot of defenders between the tackles, anticipating run, and that's a simple, easy completion to begin the game.
On first down, it's Luck under center again with the high backfield. Ryan Hewitt, the fullback, in front of Taylor. Play action again on first down. Throwing again on first down. Just incomplete for Griff Whalen. But back-to-back passes on first down for Luck.
Look at bit uncommon with the Cardinal, a team that runs it 54% of the time. And there you see the statistics I was alluding to earlier. That is remarkable. 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is as good a play-action pass team as you'll find in college football.
So because they run it so well, that's why you see play action on first down high percentage?
Well done.
Studying up with Mr. Heward over the past couple of years. So handing off on second down, Stephon Taylor will run on the right side against an Oregon State defense that gave up 225 rush yards a week ago in a loss to Utah.
One of the things that makes the Cardinals so dangerous, we know the All-American DeCastro on the right side, David Yankee, this left guard as well. All those power plays Stanford loves to run, pulling linemen. These two guards really good. And Oregon State trying to gain tackle, but just not physically stout enough at the point of contact.
Oregon State already backed up into its own territory, across the 50. Taylor gets it on first down. Another positive gain on first down for Stanford. And Brock, I think a lot of folks, when they hear in college football in 2011, this quarterback's got big numbers, he's great. They think spread offense, throw it around, 5 wide. That couldn't be farther from what Stanford does.
That's exactly right. In fact, over the last 3 years, since 2009, this Stanford team has run it 59%, and that's exactly where Pep Hamilton wants it. If they can be 65% on a cold, wet day in Corvallis, David Shaw wouldn't mind either.
2 weeks ago, Stanford ran for 446. Play action on 2nd and 5. A walk downfield, down the seam, incomplete. Intended for Fleener in the end zone.
And just a little bit late, Kobe Fleener can go. He's 6'6", 245, and one of the fastest Cardinals on this team. This ball is late from Andrew Luck. It still should be caught. That should be a touchdown. Fleener anticipating that ball in front of him. Couple misses here on the first drive. An overthrow to Whalen, an underthrow to Kobe Fleener, the Heisman Trophy contender, looking human.
Oregon State a chance to get Andrew Luck and Stanford off the field. Over the middle, incomplete and nearly picked. Lance Mitchell got 2 hands on the football. Stanford will punt, but Mitchell nearly had just the 5th interception of the year off of Andrew Luck.
Well, inside option route here, and you see Lance Mitchell do a wonderful job of breaking outside. That's what Andrew Luck sees when he goes to release that pass. But Mitchell, the senior, played a ton of ball around here. 31 career starts. Gets back underneath that option and forces a critical punt.
David Green will punt to Jordan Poyer, who had an 85-yard punt return for a touchdown earlier this year against UCLA. Fair catch inside the 15. A chance to look at our Chick-fil-A impact players when Oregon State has the ball.
We've got a redshirt freshman quarterback that can throw it a little bit as well. In fact, the coach's son is Sean Mannion. That's why I see him completing 65% of his passes. A really sharp kid. Outside Marcus Wheaton is his go-to guy. He's the explosive playmaker, second for the Beavers a year ago, rushing the football. And watch a prototypical outside linebacker, Chase Thomas. Long, athletic. It's led to his 20 career sacks.
A Stanford defense without their big playmaker for the rest of the year, Shane Scove in the linebacking core, and Delano Howe, strong safety, out with a hand injury. So Mannion backed up, he will take the sack, and that is a safety on the first snap. Are they going to mark him down at the 1? They are. They're going to mark him down at the 1. Lancaster puts the pressure on Mannion. So no safety. Mannion marked down at the 1. It's still a loss of 11.
That's a pass that the young kid's got to get rid of. And I don't know how that's not a safety, Carter. You called a safety, and I think clearly the contact there, even the first contact, was in the end zone. I think the Beavers catch an early break.
Yeah, didn't you think Mannion was backing up still at the goal line? Well, this is a break for the Oregon State, Agnew is now going to take the handoff on second long. So now it's just try and get away from the end zone and punt it away.
Mike Riley made a really good point about this Stanford group. You said everyone raves about the quarterback. They're more than a quarterback. And Mike Riley said you put on the game film, and this group can suffocate you on defense. That 3-4 front, lots of blitzes, very exotic in their nickel and dime packages, especially in these third and extra long situations. This redshirt freshman quarterback's got to get the ball out of his hands and avoid negative plays.
13 interceptions on the year thrown by Mannion. Oregon State has 14 total on the season. Odds are last in the nation. Mannion heaving on third down, complete. What did I say about just punt it away, right? Mannion to Wheaton to convert on 3rd and 17.
Reflective of a 2-6 record, Carter. That's why you just don't have to punt it. What do you have to lose today? You have everything to gain with the 4th best team in America coming in. And you see our impact player going up and using his hands. And you know what I loved about that the most? Well, I don't like to see that if you're an Oregon State fan, but the anticipation there on the throw for the youngster at quarterback, he let that go before Wheaton was well into his break.
Marcus Wheaton hobbles off after a 25-yard gain. Cardinals show pressure out of the 3-4. Stop Agnew right at the line of scrimmage. Malcolm Agnew, the true freshman running back. Dad Ray, an 11-year NFL defensive tackle, now a scout with the Rams, a connection that helped Agnew from Missouri come all the way to Corvallis to play his college football.
We showed that 2008 highlight earlier, the Giant Killers. Who was it? It was Jaquiz Rogers all afternoon.
Rogers now Atlanta Falcon. Here last week with Falcons having a bye. Another James Rogers in motion, giving right back to Agnew. James Rogers blocking on the outside. Jack Lancaster with a big hit to force 3rd down.
At a 3-yard gain, 3rd and 5.
How troublesome is that for Oregon State?
That's an enormous loss. He is their most explosive player. James Rogers still coming back from that debilitating knee injury a season ago. They're going to need Marcus Wheaton's big playability today.
3rd and 5, Oregon State converted on 3rd and 17 already. Mannion batted it incomplete. Matt Masafilo got a hand on it, so Oregon State will have to punt, but better from around the 25 than from the back of the end zone.
And it's a good thing the senior there, Masafilo, gets his hands up. That's well-coached defensive line group. Randy Hart, long-time collegiate coach. Chester McLaughlin, the former NFL player, working with those D-linemen. Masafilo's blocked. So what do? The underneath shallow cross is coming right behind you. Get your hands up, force the punt.
Hecker, who had a great week last week against Utah, averaged over 50 yards a punt. He was the punter of the week by College Football Performance Awards. Hangs this one all the way through the back of the end zone. So touchback, but still a 65-yard punt from Hecker. Andrew Luck and the Cardinal offense back on the field. On the Dr. Pepper road to the championships, 4th-ranked Stanford on the road in Corvallis against Oregon State. Big matchup next week for the Stanford Cardinal against the Oregon Ducks. And David Shaw, the Stanford head coach, says, I'm not trying to fool my guys. We all know Oregon's next, but in order for that to be a big game, have to take care of business on the road at Corvallis. Andrew Luck in the Cardinal, a punt on the opening drive, 2nd possession for the junior from Houston, Texas, Andrew Luck. This is Jeremy Stewart, the 50-year senior, 10+ on my first carry for Stanford.
Yeah, when you've got 2 nicknames, you know you've done something right in your career. He's also known as Patch, very trustworthy, the Hammer. He is the big back. And just watch today, a big check with me system is Stanford. Anytime that Oregon State's not going to commit to that run, they will run the football. 1 safety, 2 safety. Many times will dictate Andrew Luck's mechanics at the line of scrimmage.
Inside give to Mencken, the backup fullback, the sophomore from Linwood, Washington, to make it 2nd down and short. Michael Doctor there on the stop.
It's called a little cookie. Since you're the sledgehammer and you go in there and block linebackers all day, we'll give you a carry or 2, just his 8th carry this entire season.
second down. Luck completes Toilolo. Third down coming. We check in with Robert Flores.
Well, Wisconsin coming off back-to-back last-minute losses, now tied with Purdue. Caleb Turbish to Crosby Wright, 30 yards. They are tied in Madison. Use the hashtag ESPNCFB on Twitter so we can live chat during the games. Carter.
Here in Corvallis, Stanford lost on its last trip to Oregon State. In fact, Stanford hasn't won a game in the state of Oregon, either Eugene or Corvallis, since 2005. Mike Riley's Beavers have forced Andrew Luck and Stanford into third down again. Luck to throw on 3rd and 3. Pressured and intercepted for just the 5th time this season. Andrew Luck throws an interception. Oregon State has it in Stanford territory. Doctor with the interception. Second of the year for the sophomore. This one comes off of Andrew Luck.
Trying to extend the play the best he can. A big physical kid is Andrew Luck at 240 pounds, but this is a no-no. When you're on the road, third down, you like to move the chains, but you must avoid those critical mistakes. And you're exactly right, Carter. 3 years of film, you don't see those kind of mistakes from the Heisman frontrunner.
Now can Oregon State capitalize? The redshirt freshman QB, Sean Mannion, from the shotgun. Play action on first down. Correction. He faked me out too. Agnew gets it on first down, short game. Late in the fourth quarter, Andrew Luck, the interception last week against USC, and then leading Stanford back to the triple overtime win. After that interception against USC, David Shaw said he gave his quarterback about 30 seconds, went over, said, "You okay?" Andrew said, "Let me sulk for just a minute," and then up and down the sideline to encourage his teammates, saying, "We're going to rally back and win it." That's what they did at USC. Interception in the first quarter here on the road at Oregon State. So this is what the true freshman wide receiver Ty Montgomery said. So loud, for a while I was worried, but then Andrew walking up and down the sideline after that interception saying, "We're going to be all right." After that, I wasn't worried anymore. Stanford comes back to win in triple overtime to run that winning streak to 16, nation's longest. Beavers on 3rd and 7. Mannion pressured, throwing downfield. It's incomplete. Wheaton, who was back into the game for 3rd and 7, could have come down with that ball.
And now decision time for Mike Riley, and he's going to play conservatively here. And when you got one of the best punters in the conference, I can understand it. These are the plays your impact players have to make on both ends. That ball thrown away from the defender where Mannion has to put it, just outstretched from Wheaton. I can respect this call, but I can also respectfully disagree. When you get a turnover from Stanford in your territory, I don't know if pinning them back is the best move. I'd like to see the Beavers have gone for this.
Hangs it high inside the 10. Out of bounds inside the 10. Orange on the field for Oregon State. Orange on the trees in Corvallis.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by K Jewelers, the #1 jewelry store in America. Every kiss begins with K. Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers. And Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
That is Terry Baker's Heisman Trophy. The 1962 Heisman Trophy winner also played in a basketball Final Four with the Beavers. Only man to accomplish both of those tasks. Well, the man who is the presumptive front-runner for the 2011 Heisman Trophy, Andrew Luck, back on the field with the Cardinal offense after an Oregon State punt. So it's gone punt, interception, first 2 drives for Luck. Inside good again to Minkin. Let's go back to the call there on 4th down to punt for Oregon State.
Well, I'll just go back to what Coach Riley said to us right in that office of trophies yesterday. And he said when we beat Stanford in 09, we scored on every possession in the first half. And when you're playing a Stanford or an Oregon, the two that will clash next week, they're going to score their points. Okay, this is the #3 scoring team in America, and you're not going to keep them to under 20 or even 28 today. You're going to have to score offensively, and that's why at the 37-yard line after a turnover, I pulled the trigger there. A little bit more aggressive play than what the coach went with.
Taylor straight ahead to make it 3rd down and short. Cardinal committed to the run game.
Now, at the same time, this becomes an enormous 3rd down. Your defense has responded, played exactly the way you want them after you punt them down. Now you get a 3rd down where you can still create that really good field position if Mark Banker's group here defensively can make another big stop. Stanford 51% this season on 3rd down, one of the best in America. Slow start already this afternoon.
Both 3rd downs. Luck passing, 0 for 2, including the interception last time on exactly this, 3rd and 3. Luck completes to Whalen just beyond the sticks, and Whalen stretches for another couple more across the 20. That's Griff Whalen, the senior from Ohio, whose great uncle is Tom Seaver. So only 3 for 7 for 24 for Andrew Luck. And there you see Griff Whalen starting to come on in this Cardinal offense. A lot of different weapons for Stanford.
And they don't win the game at USC last week if Griff Whalen does not step up and respond in the absence of Zach Ertz.
Luck dropping on 1st down. Chris Owusu dropped at the 25. Nice job by Jordan Poyer of tackling in space.
I like this kid, Poyer. 3 interceptions, leads the team. Lots of injuries all throughout, and every team in America can make those excuses. I think Mike Riley's group would probably be at the front of the excuse line. Numerous guys, both sides of the ball, beat up and injured. Brandon Harden, their starting corner, lost for the year. And Poyer has really stepped up in his absence as the playmaker on the back end of this Beaver defense.
Taylor, minimal gain on the left side. And how about the Oregon State defense? I mean, this game's 0-0. I think a lot of Oregon State fans would have said 3.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. And our defense has given up only 69 yards to Stanford. I think they would have taken this after watching Utah just run right through them a week ago.
That's right. And in particular, the 2 guys in the middle, Fromm with the pressure on Luck to force the interception. Sayamalo that time. You're going to need your interior guys in that front 4 when you're facing Stanford to do what USC did a week ago. That's create some penetration. That's readjust that line of scrimmage. And right now, this undersized Oregon State defensive line holding their own.
Cardinal only 1 for 3 on 3rd down. Luck has time, looks long for Fleener, incomplete, but a flag coming. It looks like Ryan Murphy, the nickelback, got tangled up with Fleener.
Holding on the defense, number 25. 10-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
That's the 22nd time this year an opponent has gotten a 1st down against Oregon State on a penalty.
And it's such a tough matchup. You're going to see the redshirt freshman Murphy. He's battling a shoulder injury, and it's that contact early, right out of break. Those referees in the back end looking at those receivers coming in and out of break. You grab that receiver, you will draw the penalty.
Wilkerson, the 1st down carry for the Cardinal. So 22 1st downs now off of penalties by Oregon State's opponents. That's tied for the most in the nation now with their Pac-12 mate, Arizona State. The Cardinal haven't been shut out in a first quarter. Not only not shut out, 67-10 on opponents in the first quarter this year.
Domination.
3rd quarter numbers even bigger for the Cardinal.
Check with me situation. Look at the 2 safeties on the back end.
Wilkerson will get it on 2nd down. He is dropped. short. So another third down coming. Lance Mitchell, the safety from Pasadena, California, who's battling an ab injury, makes a stop.
And I'll tell you what, Carter, if Oregon State can do that defensively, if they can keep those safeties at 8 or 9 yards deep and protect against the pass, and you can stop the run, well, Mark Banker knows that's a recipe for success today. And the hometown faithful, I think, know it as well as they rise up. And another big third down.
Play fake. Luck rolling, has room to run. Toilolo blocking for him out front, and Luck goes scrambling back into Beaver territory inside the 40.
And that is where he's really good, and he's picked his spot so much more this season. Almost 1,000 yards on the ground in his career, the most of any Stanford Cardinal quarterback, but just a little over 100 this season, and he really has done his damage in these critical third down situations. He did it last week in the Coliseum. And when you're 6'4" and 240 and can use that athleticism to move the chains, you can understand why Mel Kiper, Todd McShay have this kind of talent rated where Andrew Luck is rated.
Reverse on first down, Owusu. Inside the 30, Owusu inside the 20. Chris Owusu rolling inside the 10. Finally shoved out at around the 7-yard line.
What a really good call from Pep Hamilton and David Shaw, the two that work in cohesion as offensive coordinator and head coach. The inside fake, speed option. Well, we'll just flip it around to Owusu. If Fleener's one of the fastest, well, he's going to be second in line to Chris Owusu. Opening up that playbook, a point of emphasis in our open today.
First and goal, Gaffney stopped short of the goal line. 32-yard gain there for Owusu.
That's where you do that. Oftentimes, many times when you're watching these games, when those offenses get between the 50 and call it the 35, that's where coaches love to use those little wrinkles, whether it's the reverse pass or you take the shot down the field, big play action pass. The Cardinals are going to let this first quarter unwind. But as I said, a good call. We saw some big calls last week from David Shaw. It was a good one to ignite this offense. It's been a little bit slow starting in Corvallis.
Stanford shut out the first quarter for the first time this year. But at the beginning of the second quarter, can Andrew Luck and the Cardinal put it in the end zone? In between the Cascades and the Pacific Coast, it is autumn in the Willamette River Valley, Corvallis, Oregon. Beginning of the second quarter, the orange-clad Oregon State Beavers trying to hold Andrew Luck and Stanford out of the end zone. Touchdown Cardinal. On the first play of the second quarter, Jeremy Stewart, the fifth-year senior from Baton Rouge, puts the Cardinal on the board. Levine Toilolo is down on the play for Stanford.
And we have talked today already in this first quarter about the loss of Zach Ertz. One of the real trademarks of this Stanford group this season, that 3 tight end package. It took a major hit last week. You see the hands on the hips from their head coach. He knows without Zach Ertz in the Coliseum, injured on the first play of the game, the kickoff. Well, now this guy is a stud. In fact, Mike Riley said of all their tight ends, they're all unique and different, but this Toilolo at 6'8" and a weapon, go up and catch the ball, such a dominant force in their edge blocking. This would be a severe blow to that very big, deep playbook of the Stanford Cardinal.
So Ertz is out, leg injury. Levine Toilolo, who missed almost all of 2010, what would have been his freshman year. Let's go back to the touchdown and keep an eye on Toilolo, number 11.
Boy, it sure does not look like much there. I mean, that left knee gets cut into there a little bit, but now they're not working on that. What is so unique about Levine at 6'8" is in that play highlighted. You see the knee bend off the snap. Mark Banker, the defensive coordinator, I really enjoyed the X's and O's with him yesterday, and he pointed to Toilolo as well. Hey, these other tight ends are really good, capable players. Toilolo makes them go. They better get him back.
Moments ago, this is Levine Toilolo walking off the field, injured on the touchdown run by Jeremy Stewart.
And now watch the leg here, the left knee actually of Dylan Wynn, the defensive end. He gets blocked into the head of Levine Toilolo.
Right at the end of that touchdown play. So here's the PAT. Whitaker on for the injured Jordan Williamson. Whitaker 18 field goals last week. Pac-10 Special Teams Player of the Week. As the PAT, if we get any update on Levine Toilolo, we will pass that along. But as Brock mentioned, Zach Ertz already out with a leg injury. Levine Toilolo, a part of that deep, talented, and special group of tight ends. And now Andrew Luck and the Cardinal potentially without two of those tight ends. Tonight on ABC, Brandon Whedon, the high-powered Oklahoma State Cowboys, another of the Heisman contenders and maybe the best wide receiver in college football, Justin Blackmon against Kansas State, or Notre Dame hitting the road to face Wake Forest. Important games for the Stanford Cardinal.
In this day and age where those computers mean an awful lot, Stanford pulling for Notre Dame tonight. They'll face Notre Dame at the end of the season. And likewise, Kansas State, if they can pull off the upset, that's all good news and good things for Stanford. Do you think those were their Halloween costumes? Do you think those were just left, the nuns there? You think those were leftovers?
I certainly have seen, what would you say, more righteous groups of nuns? I have seen more righteous groups before. This is Poyer on the return. Our Pacific Life game summary.
And once again, well, the first half domination, time of possession, but look at the rush yards there. 105. The sack counts as negative rush yards for the Beavers. Stanford just number 2 to the Ducks in rushing offense in this Pac-12 conference.
So Oregon State manages to hold Stanford scoreless. You go to the second quarter in a 0-0 game. 8 seconds in, already 7-0 Stanford. And now Sean Mannion, the redshirt freshman QB for the Beavers, back on the field with Stanford showing pressure. Play fake, Mannion downfield, incomplete. We check in with Robert Flores.
All right, Wisconsin back on top of Purdue. Russell Wilson, second touchdown pass of the day. This one to Jared Abadaris. And right now they're leading 14-10. Meantime, Oklahoma just picked off A&M, and they're driving 7-3 on ESPN2.
6th-ranked Oklahoma has a big one to come at the end of the year against Oklahoma State, and there's a number 4 next to Stanford's name, which means they need somebody ahead of them to lose if the Stanford Cardinal have a chance to play for the title. And 2nd down and 10. That's Brandon Cooks, the true freshman from Stockton, California, making it 3rd and short.
In many ways, as James Rogers is still overcoming that knee injury that, remarkably enough, was just a year ago, and he's back on this field, Cooks has really become the fly sweep guy. They like his speed and burst an awful lot. And Stanford fans do not like to see that scene whatsoever. A team built, predicated an identity around those tight ends. One key cog missing, and now 2 are going to go out. Remember, the Ducks are looming next weekend.
Play fake on 3rd and 2. Mannion throwing, caught, but short of a 1st down. That's Tyler Anderson, the fullback, who makes the grab. But 4th down coming, and the punt unit back on the field for Oregon State.
That's too bad. That's a 1st down. Mike Riley knows that his redshirt freshman quarterback eventually, not just completions, but easier completions for your fullback to turn up and run. There was yardage there to be made to move the chains. The throw, the low throw, forces the punt.
Fair catch called for at the last minute inside the 35. Chance to look at our BCS standings presented by Allstate, and note the separation between 3 and 4. Stanford has some ground to make up in the BCS.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with Duke, San Jose State, Washington State, a schedule to this point that Stanford can't do anything about. They can't control. They play who they play, but that's affected those computer rankings significantly. And that's why the Notre Dames of the world, the Oregons of the world tonight against the Huskies will be pivotal, that they can keep winning. So when they face those foes here down the stretch, and if they can get those wins, quality wins, well, they can start climbing up that computer ranking ladder.
That's why if you're a Cardinal fan, you're rooting for Oregon and Washington tonight. You're rooting for Notre Dame against Wake Forest tonight on ABC. Taylor on first down, gets the handoff from Luck, and already second down and short for the Cardinals.
Pep Hamilton made a good point to us about this running back, and you hear different conversations, right? I believe it was Lane Kiffin a year ago that said, I want one feature back. I want one guy within the zone blocking and what we do to really become the guy with the timing in the run game. Well, Stanford's not a zone system. They're a power system. They're a gap system. They love having 4 guys all hungry, all desperate, all wanting for those carries. I think you see that in how hard these guys run.
Setting up play action for Andrew Luck. Downfield, batted away, and incomplete, intended for Owusu. More hands on the football. This time it's Rashad Reynolds, the sophomore corner, filling in for the injured Brandon Harden.
It's just a little different Andrew than I've seen in the 4 other broadcasts we've done of his games. He's just waiting for them to get open. Instead of throwing that ball's got to come out a half second earlier. He's got to throw Owusu open. There was enough separation. Just a little bit late in a number of passes thus far.
Sound like Phil Simms. 3rd and 3, completing. First down Cardinal. Ryan Hewitt moving the chains.
Well, then take that, Phil Simms, because I come off my primary receiver. I don't panic. I've got a good offensive line that's blocking for me. Now come to my secondary outlet. And all Ryan Hewitt does is move the chains. He leads this Cardinal group. Yet another weapon, their fullback, H-back tight end, with now his 9th third down conversion of the season.
First down out of the eye. Straight ahead run for Taylor. Make it second down and about 6 yards. On the subject of all of the publicity and maybe some of the slings and arrows and he's overhyped, Andrew Luck says, look, I don't even have cable TV. I'm not on Twitter. But he told me I'm not living in a cave either. I know about all of the fans in Miami and Indianapolis hoping that their team may end up with Andrew Luck and many others around the National Football League. He knows about everything that's going on out there. Throwing and incomplete, and no flag on a physical play from the corner Poyer there on Terrell. So, yeah, all the preseason hype around Andrew Luck. And, Brock, that was right around the time that you and Andrew had a picture made.
Pac-12 Media Day, sure was. That's when he had that big Amish look going on, the big Amish beard that he's done away with.
And what did your radio callers say? Maybe we'll get to that one later. 3rd down and 5 here. Stanford's converted its last 4 third downs. Make it 5 straight. Griff Whalen makes the grab. Into Oregon State territory again, now to the 41.
Well, when the chains need to be moved, Andrew Luck anticipates. This again, that little option route. This time you can see that ball is out of his hands, thrown away from the defender. He's not holding that ball as he has on some of these other incompletions. And probably should be no surprise that timing's built with Griff Whalen, his senior receiver that's really become over the last 4 weeks his go-to guy.
Toilolo out of the game. Ertz out for the week for Stanford. Play fake. Luck heaving long for Whalen in the end zone. It is incomplete. Rashad Reynolds there in coverage on Whalen.
Well, let's give some credit now. What Andrew Luck is not doing, well, these DBs are playing a role as well, and you see Reynolds closing speed here. And those DBs watch the eyes. And did you see Whalen's hands go up? The instant his hands go up, that's a well-coached group. Mark Banker, an excellent defensive coordinator. That's technique. The second that Whalen's hands go up, that's the point that Reynolds finally reaches his hands up to separate the receiver from the ball. That's well done.
Taylor on second down. Make it 3rd and about 5 for the Cardinal. Country music's biggest night. Brad Paisley, Carrie Underwood hosting the CMA Awards live Wednesday, November 9th, 8/7 Central on ABC. Back in 1979, Brock. Who was it who won Entertainer of the Year?
That'd be your guy. That'd be Willie. Willie Nelson. Back when you were a year and a half years old.
I can neither confirm nor deny that. 3rd and 5 for Luck and the Cardinal. First down. Terrell makes the grab to move the chains again for Stanford.
Once again, the head comes around, the ball a little bit low. Terrell does a nice job, a fantastic job of digging his hands underneath that ball.
Oh, that is very close to being nose of the football on the ground. So Luck under center. It's in the books now. 6th straight 3rd down conversion for Stanford. Tough running from Anthony Wilkerson, the sophomore, in that hungry group of backs for the Cardinal.
That quartet, and like their tight ends, well, 2 of which now are banged up, these 4 running backs are all uniquely gifted. Wilkerson is their home run hitter. Gaffney that we've seen earlier, he's more of their slasher. Stewart, Patch, the Hammer, whatever you want to nickname him, he's their touchdown maker, their big back. And then the every down guy, Stephon Taylor, and I think the most underrated of them all. And there you see now Gaffney in the game. 4 really gifted, diverse, versatile running backs.
There is Gaffney turning the corner. Moving the chains, close to it anyway. Let's check in with Robert Flores.
Carter, USC lost to Stanford in a breathtaking game last night. Mac Barkley sets a school record with 6 touchdown passes as USC was all over Colorado's 42-17. 4th time in Barkley's career he has thrown 5 or more touchdowns in a game. Text vote to 55862 for a chance at a trip to the national title.
Indeed, breathtaking a week ago as Stanford was able to rally back and win in triple overtime. Gaffney marked down just short of the first down. So 3rd and very short for the Cardinal. Play action shot coming. Andrew Luck will scramble away. Luck trying to get to the corner, spinning away, diving for a first down, moving the chains again. The versatile Andrew Luck hits the spin move in the open field.
And did we talk about what he does on 3rd downs? That's the money down. It's the money down at the next level where you need franchise quarterbacks to be elite. And Andrew Luck thus far today, after a slow start, has been fantastic on that critical down. And once again, showing he's capable of running the ball.
So Luck spinning away from the redshirt freshman defensive end Crichton. And now Stanford threatening in the red zone. Cardinal have converted 7 straight 3rd downs now. Luck dropping to the end zone. Whalen caught. Touchdown. Stanford Cardinal. 0 points in the first quarter. A pair of touchdowns for Stanford now. Another touchdown pass for Andrew Luck, the 24th of the season.
And Pep Hamilton seeing what I'm seeing here in the booth, a lot of tight coverage, and you know what you do to tight coverage? You double move, and it's just that little instant right there. You want to sit on these routes, you want to be in my back pocket, that's fine. I can see that, and at the appropriate time, well, 2 veteran guys will run a little double move, hitch and go. Easy completion.
17-yard touchdown strike. Pep Hamilton's offense, captained by that man, up by 2 touchdowns.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers.
Well, like it's supposed to be in November in Oregon, a cool, rainy, gray day. Here in Corvallis, home of the Oregon State Beavers, it's Stanford with a 14-0 lead now with a pair of second-quarter touchdowns. Andrew Luck has his 24th touchdown pass of the year to go along with an interception on the day. Boyer bobbles this one inside slipping ahead to the 33. Let's go back to Luck and the Cardinal. Third down, that last drive.
They are the money play. The way that Stanford executes, a lot of third and very manageable situations. 3rd and 3 or less have been the average in their 8 conversions today, or 8 attempts today, and on 2 occasions. That's what sets this guy apart. And when you look at a Sean Mannion this afternoon, the redshirt freshman for Oregon State, he can throw it. And in fact, is going to throw for more yards than any freshman in this program's history. But it's that ability, that X factor in critical times, just as a week ago in the Coliseum, when you can break tackles and you can move the chains with your legs as well, it becomes so difficult to contain.
Agnew gets it for a minimal gain on first down. So if you're Oregon State, you got into the second quarter in a 0-0 game. You managed to bottle that Stanford offense, even get an interception from Andrew Luck, and yet you're halfway through the second, and it's still 14-0 Cardinal.
And you get a nice kickoff return, and you've got to take advantage of these field position opportunities. And you got to hit one down the field. Until you take a shot and take the top off, Stanford's going to continue to suffocate you around the line of scrimmage.
On the reverse. That is Wheaton across the 45 into Stanford territory. A chance to look at our Aflac trivia question. Name the only school 3 running backs in the top 10 among all-time Pac-12 career rushing leaders. There's only one school, top 10, 3 running backs, all-time Pac-12 now rushers. Ponder that. Mannion goes under center. Play fake. Here's the shot from Mannion. Downfield. Caught. James Rogers inside the 30. Rogers wrestled down inside the 15. James Rogers on his way back week by week from that horrendous knee injury he suffered a year ago.
If you've ever watched Oregon State over the last decade or so and Mike Riley's here, this is a staple of what they do, that deep over route. And you could see Rogers, it's not quite all the way back yet. Just a year ago, he probably scores on that a year ago, frankly. But he's good enough, Mannion's big enough and physical enough to stand in there in the pocket and deliver that deep over they've become so famous for here in Corvallis.
Beavers in the red zone. Wheaton gets it on first down. Fumble the football. Picked up. Beavers maintain possession. Colby Prince hops on top of the fumble by Wheaton. Terrence Brown forces the fumble. Prince gets back on top. To make it second down for Oregon State.
Woeful red zone offense, scoring touchdowns. Better find a way to capitalize on this drive.
That was nearly the 6th red zone turnover of the year for Oregon State. Mannion finds Rogers inside the 10. James Rogers into the end zone. Touchdown, Beavers. Oregon State answers the Stanford touchdown. Back to a one-score game. Rogers into the end zone for only the 2nd time in his senior year.
One of the issues a week ago against USC was the zone coverage of Stanford, not being very sticky within their different zones. They drop appropriately. You're going to see the defense here. Everyone gets to their spots, but nobody is understanding of the underneath routes. In fact, you see Jarek Lancaster there, the linebacker, try to get underneath the seam, anticipating that throw. Leaves the void open for Rogers to take advantage of.
In 08, when Oregon State took down a giant, it was Jaquiz. Today it's James into the end zone.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by AT&T. Get it faster with 4G. Rethink possible. Nissan, proud partner of the Heisman Trophy. And Aflac, official partner of the Heisman Trophy.
As one of the largest and most advanced labs for coastal research, the O.H. Hinsdale Wave Laboratory serves as a leader in the study of waves and wave energy. With the focus of understanding tsunamis, the large tsunami basin and wave flume help scientists and students with their research in coastal and ocean processes. Welcome to my university.
Good job, Katie. What'd you think of the tsunami wave?
Why not do that in Mandalay Bay? They got a big wave pool down there.
You do it with the toothpick umbrellas they put in your drinks poolside as well. Montgomery across the 33. Andrew Luck and the Stanford offense back on the field when we come back. Back in Corvallis, Oregon, a one-score game between the Beavers and the Stanford Cardinal. Name the only school. Our Aflac trivia question. 3 of the top 10 all-time Pac-12 now rushers. And yes, indeed, it's Oregon State, even though there's no Steven Jackson, no Bill Earthquake Inyard on that list. I mean, I think a lot of folks would think USC first. It's Oregon State. Andrew Luck and the Cardinal back on the field for first down. This is Stephon Taylor across the 35 to the 36 for Stanford.
We talk about the diversity of this playbook. Well, you lose a tight end. Once again, just like in our open, count that. Those are 6 big bodies to run that downhill power scheme. And it may not look like much, 4 or 5 yard gain, but that's exactly why Stanford's been in third in incredibly manageable situations all afternoon.
And here they go from the big package to 4 wide receivers. Why Stanford presents so many matchup problems for defense. Luck on 2nd and 5, completed to Owusu who fumbles the football. Huge hit there, use a flag down. This is Poyer who's going to take it all the way into the end zone, but there's a flag down and Owusu is down, and this one appears to be coming back on a very scary hit from Poyer to Chris Owusu.
And unfortunately for Chris Owusu, this is now the 3rd occasion this season that he's taken a vicious blow. You remember TJ McDonald levied the huge hit that cost McDonald half a game last night, suspension. Late against USC a week ago, against Washington State earlier this season, Owusu took a vicious blow. And now, unfortunately for Chris, the 3rd time on the field.
Personal foul, targeting above the shoulder. On the defense, number 14. A 15-yard penalty will be enforced in the previous spot. First down, Stanford.
And you're going to see 2 coaches for Oregon State adamant that's a bang-bang play. And help me understand something here, Carter. A week ago, I got up here on my soapbox in a collision in a Penn State game where a free safety comes out of center field and unloads on the quarterback, helmet to helmet. And that does not draw a flag. That situation where you see Poyer, I think, leading with his shoulder. He's coming in with his shoulder. I know this is a point of emphasis. In fact, I spoke to the replay guys before the game today because I was incredibly opinionated about what I thought was a penalty a week ago. Hard to understand. If you're a defensive player, if you're Mark Banker, the defensive coordinator, would you like to see Poyer maybe come in, maybe dip his hips a little bit? Yeah, sure you would. But this is instantaneous, and we're slowing this way down. This is a bang-bang play on the field, and he's not leaving his feet. I don't see him particularly launching the crown of his helmet into the helmet of Owusu. I don't know what you teach these kids at times defensively. It is a very tough message to deliver.
Everyone on a knee at Reser Stadium.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers.
Just 7 days after Stanford wide receiver Chris Owusu took a helmet-to-helmet collision from USC safety TJ McDonald, Chris Owusu is down on the field here in Corvallis at Reser Stadium. Jordan Poyer flagged for targeting on the play. Owusu still down on the field. Players on both teams on a knee on the field. It was an interception return for a touchdown for Poyer that will be wiped out. So that touchdown does not count. The score is 14-7, but the thoughts of this entire stadium, both sidelines, everyone here, for Chris Owusu, who is dealing with now sustained, repeated hits to the head.
It's the unfortunate part about a very violent game that these guys all play. And for Owusu, as you said, some brutal collisions this season. The shot a week ago on national TV that I referenced with TJ McDonald. I mean, safety coming out of center field. This is just catching a little out route. And this is dipping, and I think a very natural football reaction from both receiver and defensive back, dipping into the collision. You hit the head wrong once again, and unfortunately, Chris, not moving right now and carted off the field.
In regards to the rule and the flag being thrown on the play, the rule says no player shall target and initiate contact to the head or neck area of an opponent with the helmet, forearm, elbow, or shoulder. When in question, it is a foul. That is in the rule book. That's the verbiage that these officials are given. It's a point of emphasis in college football, and we have seen it at all levels of football,
right.
to try and reduce the number of concussions in an inherently violent game.
And it's a message that's being sent very loud and clear at the NFL level as well. My frustration or challenge is, help me define this then every time. It's become almost such, unfortunately, a judgment call. And you hate to see that when a kid is on a stretcher here. But I don't know what more Jordan Poyer can do there. Is the cornerback coming in? Chris Owusu catches it. He's turning upfield. He dips his hips. Now, Poyer, that's not a fundamental tackle, right? It's not how you would draw it up. And wonderful to see the thumbs up there from Owusu. But I don't know what you're asking these defensive guys to do. Heck, I was a quarterback, okay? And you listen to Jaworski and Gruden on Monday night, and they rail all these calls as well. And if I check my math, both those guys were quarterbacks too. Not corners, not safeties, not guys playing defensively who react, who hit, where the violence is a part of playing defense, separating your opponent from the ball. Look at what could have been there on that fumble return. That's what Riley and Banker and that staff was so adamant about. That play is a play that we could be looking at 14-14. Instead, 15-yard penalty for the Cardinals.
And extremely unfortunately for Chris Owusu, this is the third time that this has happened to the senior from Westlake Village, California. That's against Washington State. Then just 7 days ago in the Coliseum against USC, TJ McDonald laying Owusu out a
penalty. Yep. By rule, I understand those completely. Leading with the head, targeting the head. This is shoulder to shoulder. Part of the helmet becomes contacted there because the two players dip into that tackle and collision point. It is just ironic that literally before this game, I pulled the replay officials aside and said, help me understand this rule. Because a week ago, I was told, well, a runner, if he's not defenseless, it becomes a different situation. There's some gray area. I'm glad I'm not a defensive coach trying to teach a defensive back how to separate a receiver from a football when he dips down into contact, because I don't know what you can do.
If we receive any update on the condition of Chris Owusu, we will pass it along to you as soon as we get that update. Levine Toilolo also out of this game for Stanford, and there are injuries mounting now for the Stanford Cardinal, with Toilolo out. Zach Ertz out for the game with a leg injury. Chris Owusu leaving the field in an ambulance.
And I'll tell you, from being inside a huddle like that, Carter, when your teammates go down and they come into this game without Ertz, and then Toilolo, their stud tight end, goes out. Now you see your senior, one of your most talented players, Owusu, carted off in an ambulance. This can go one of two ways. This can be yet another bonding experience. A group emotionally now led by Andrew Luck, that he tightens the screws down further, brings that huddle in closer. Hey, we got to continue to respond to adversity. Or you can start to look around and say, man, who's going down next? I can't believe this is happening. There's no Ertz, there's no Toilolo, there's no Owusu. A real challenge here for a football team. Let's watch how a mature group handles it.
Remember, the result of that play was an interception return for a touchdown by Poyer that was wiped out because of
the penalty.
Yeah, because of the penalty. So a takeaway by Poyer that gets wiped out. Officially a fumble after Owusu makes the catch. So that was wiped out on the flag.
The enforcement is being moved to the spot of the fumble. First down.
And so the Oregon State fans are upset that a touchdown was wiped off because that flag was thrown, and now 15-yard penalty against the Beavers. But again, as we said from the rule book, targeting if there's any doubt that should be a foul.
Yeah.
That's what the rule book says. That's the enforcement. Plain as day. So it is Stanford football without Toilolo, without Owusu, without Ertz. On 1st and 10, Tyler Gaffney for another 8-yard gain after a delay of over 10 minutes on the field.
Well, I know you studied law at Syracuse then, so help me define that. Was he targeting the head? Did you see Jordan Poyer there as secondary man, defensive back? Did you see him targeting the head of Chris Owusu? Because that's where the gray area is. The first two calls, Wazoo, USC, no problem, no issue whatsoever. When Owusu dips into that contact point, did you see Jordan Poyer targeting the helmet?
The answer to that is very close. I see your point, but I mean, the rule book says if there's any doubt and if there is contact above the shoulders, then it's a 15-yard foul. And that's the enforcement of it now in 2011.
Well, I sure hope we don't get to flag football.
And I mean, you understand when you have a Chris Owusu who is now dealing with this for the 3rd time in a season. Serious blow to the helmet. You understand why the rule is put in place. You understand why it's an emphasis. It's all about player safety, but it becomes very difficult to play aggressive football under those rules.
And when it could be a game-changing, game-turning turnover that you create and force, well, you can understand why the faithful here are so adamantly against that call, still booing 3 plays later.
And a potential conference championship turning call, a potential national championship turning call. The score says 14-7 Stanford over Oregon State. A touchdown wiped off by a penalty against Jordan Poyer for targeting against Chris Owusu, who was taken off the field in an ambulance. Back to play with Andrew Luck and the Stanford Cardinal, who have the nation's longest winning streak, a 16-game winning streak on the line at Oregon State for a Cardinal team who had to win in triple overtime on the road a week ago. Now playing without Zach Ertz, Levine Toilolo, who left early in this game, and now the leading wide receiver, Chris Owusu, out for Stanford. And again, if we get any update on Chris Owusu or Levine Toilolo, we will pass it along as soon as we get that information. Taylor straight ahead, and so through it all, Stanford running the football, getting into 3rd down and short, managing the offense, as you called it, Brock, the most complicated playbook in college football.
Very, very diverse in what they do schematically. Once again, you see a 6 offensive lineman set and go to a 4 receiver set for a team. It's funny, as much as I'm railing against the contact and the viciousness and the physical play that knocks out a Stanford player, that is their identity. That's what they do. That's exactly what David Shaw wants. He wants to run this ball upwards of 60% of the time so they control the clock and manage these situations.
Play action on 3rd down and 3, completing 1st down inside the 20. Drew Terrell makes this grab. 9 third downs that Stanford has faced. Easy for me to say. The longest 3rd down has been 5 yards.
Well, in response to Phil Simms, who made some comments this week about Andrew Luck and the NFL passes, I would give you Exhibit A, this first half of these 3rd down throws. Those are NFL kind of conversions where you have to have them. If you're going to play the game to get to 3rd down, you better have a quarterback that can execute.
Counting a penalty against Oregon State on 3rd down. That's now 8 straight converted by Stanford. Incomplete pass on 1st down to Taylor in the red zone, where the Cardinal have excelled. So Oregon State's task now is Andrew Luck and Stanford inside the Beaver Zone 20. Hold Stanford out of the end zone.
Just about 80% of the time they score touchdowns, which is a tremendous number. When you've been in there 47 times as Stanford has this season, they know how to score touchdowns, and especially now going into half with 1:40 to go, if you can hold them to a field goal here, it feels very differently in the locker room.
Taylor moving his way to another 3rd down, and this one will be about another 5 yards for Stanford in the red zone. Lance Mitchell there on the head to force the 3rd down play coming for 4th-ranked undefeated Stanford.
And just take a look at that play sheet of David Shaw. That is right out of the John Gruden school and philosophy. Lots of volume, lots of plays. And a very bright group that can handle that deep playbook.
Shaw, who coached with John Gruden in Oakland. This is the longest third down that Stanford has faced in the game, and it's 6 yards in the red zone. Luck, inside toss. Taylor bottled up and dropped at the 14. With less than a minute to go in the second quarter, kicking unit coming on for Stanford.
And if you're Oregon State, you've got to use your timeout here. You've got 3 timeouts. I think you have to use one of those.
And there it is. So timeout Oregon State. Field goal attempt coming up. Oregon State has blocked 5 kicks this year. On the Dr. Pepper road to the championships, 4th-ranked Stanford, the leader in the Pac-12 North Division, against the Oregon State Beavers. 39 seconds left in the second quarter. Kicking unit out for the Cardinal, Eric Whitaker, sophomore kicker, in place of the injured Jordan Williamson. Oregon State has blocked 5 kicks this season. Whitaker from 31 makes this 17-7. 2-score game. Oregon State will get the football with a little over 30 seconds remaining in the half. Coming up on the Capital One Halftime Report, John Anderson, Jesse Palmer, scores and highlights from around today's action, first half analysis, and a preview of tonight's primetime lineup. Important for Stanford, the ABC games at Oklahoma and Kansas State, Oklahoma State rather, and Notre Dame against Wake Forest, as well as Alabama LSU. Mike Riley is an Alabama alum, class of 75.
Mike Riley, a guy that's pretty calm, cool, and collected most of the time. He really did not like that fumble taken off the board. You also saw him animated as his defenders running off the field. Exactly to our point of, man, a win, if you can hold Stanford to a field goal, they do. And if Oregon State can avoid a turnover or anything crazy happening before half, you're going in 17-7. Your defense is forcing an interception. Your defense has knocked Chris Owusu and Levine Toilolo out of this game. I don't know what more Mark Banker, Mike Riley could have asked from that phase of the game through the first 30 minutes.
So
watch Poyer here as well. He had the kickoff return earlier to the 35. This is a young kicker. Poyer's had a kickoff return touchdown already this season. He's their big play threat.
Whitaker will kick off. Jordan Poyer takes it from inside the 5. He has a punt return for a touchdown this year. And now Poyer turns the corner across the 35. Wrestled out of bounds at the 40. Here comes a late flag that could tack 15 more yards onto this run from Poyer.
And that's the running back, Jordan Gaffney. Tyler Gaffney going to the headgear area of Poyer.
Personal foul, face mask by the kicking team. A 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the run. First down.
I don't mean to insinuate anything here, but remember, it was Jordan Poyer who was the cornerback who was called for that hit on Owusu. And I don't mean to insinuate anything by that. I'm just pointing out the fact that that is the same player, Poyer. So 15 yards at the end of that run. Beaver football from the 44 in Stanford territory with 27 seconds. 2 timeouts left for Oregon State. That's Poyer on the Oregon State bench. Mannion, the redshirt freshman quarterback, under center. Play fake. Mannion downfield, complete. It's Marcus Wheaton inside the 30-yard line. Clock will stop temporarily as the chains are moved. 2 timeouts left for the Beavers. 16-yard completion.
Oh, you have to have a play call. These are critical seconds now. 6, 7. You should have burned a timeout.
And now penalty flags with 10 seconds left in the half. This looks like a false start.
That's a bungled operation here, unfortunately, at the end of the half. You have 2 timeouts with 21 seconds to go. You burn that timeout there. You can't afford to watch 11 seconds tick off, and now a false start penalty as well.
False start's the call.
False start on the offense, number 50. A 5-yard penalty, still first down. To avoid the 10-second subtraction, Oregon State has elected to take a timeout. Their second of the half.
So if there was a 10-second runoff, the half would have been over. That's why Riley uses the second timeout there. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is coming down to the end of the chase for the Cup. Tony Stewart with a big win late last week. The chase continues at Texas. Our coverage begins on ESPN tomorrow at 2 Eastern. Smoke.
Couple things here, okay? Number one, you find this so often, and I think even especially in college football, where kids think, well, the clock stops after a first down. I have all this time. No, you don't. They will set that ball quickly, and that's why a timeout or a spike or making sure the instant they run that clock, you have a play ready to go. You can't afford to burn those seconds. Secondly, now with 10 seconds to go, and we saw this last week in the USC game, that was 9 seconds on that bubble screen where Robert Woods is running around. You better have a clock in your head as quarterback and skill position player to get down so you can burn a timeout and even have an attempt then at a field goal.
Just outside of what you would think the kicker's range, Trevor Romaine, the true freshman, long of 45, which would be the 28-yard line. Mannion over the middle, incomplete. 7 seconds, 1 timeout left for the Beavers. Is that time for one more shot?
I don't think it is. I really don't. I think this is a situation, and Mike Riley's correct, that you've got to come on and attempt this field goal.
That's Levine Toilolo walking back to the Stanford sideline.
And if he looks enormous, he is. He's 6'8", 265, and really one of the big weapons for the Cardinal offensively.
This would be a career long for Trevor Romaine. He's just a freshman, career long 45. This is 50. Romaine's kick is blocked. And a potential chance for a run back here. And Thomas is now dropped. And so at the half, the score is Stanford 17, Oregon State 7. A wild and at times controversial first half in Corvallis.
And you see the 6'6" tight end, Kobe Fleener, go up and get this. Unfortunately, opportunities in this first half for Oregon State. One, called back, a bungled operation there before half. Now we're still within 2 touchdowns here in Corvallis.
Capital One halftime report is after these messages. Welcome back to ESPN's coverage of college football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers. 5 times in the past decade, a top 10 team has lost here in Corvallis at Reser Stadium. And welcome back to Corvallis. Carter Blackburn with Brock Heward. An important update for you, Chris Owusu, Stanford wide receiver who left the game with a concussion, has been taken to a local hospital, does have full range of motion. Any further update on his condition we will pass along to you. Levine Toilolo also has left the game for Stanford. Brock, how does that affect the 4th-ranked undefeated Stanford Cardinal on the road in this second half against Oregon State?
It's a good thing they got a very good, diverse playbook, exactly to the open of our show today. Without Zach Ertz, throw him on that list as well. This is a Stanford group that can handle a loss of some key players. They're deep. They've got the best quarterback in the country. Toilolo, actually, in chatting with the SID at halftime, said he's not been completely ruled out of this ball game. And let's also remember what's looming ahead. Not only a 30-minute half here in a game that's a lot closer than I think people thought. We've also got Oregon next week at home.
Andrew Luck, a touchdown pass and an interception in the first half. Just the 5th interception of the year thrown by Andrew Luck. It's Oregon State football to begin the second half, trailing by 10 against undefeated Stanford. The Cardinals' 16-game winning streak. This is Marable near the 35. Our Pacific Life game summary. Alicia's Pacific Life game summary.
After a slow start on third down, Stanford really caught fire. The difference, Andrew Luck's decision-making, athleticism, converted 6 in a row on their way to a couple touchdowns, including the little double move to Griff Whalen. For Oregon State on the other side, found a little life there in the second quarter. Sean Mannion, the completion to James Rogers. If they would not have bungled the operation at the end of half, they could have put 3 more points on the board. Mannion got into rhythm in that second period.
Here is the redshirt freshman quarterback handing off on first down to his true freshman running back, Malcolm Agnew, an Oregon State team who was 2-6. If Oregon State loses this game, it would be the earliest that Oregon State has been guaranteed a losing season since 1997. Mike Riley's Beavers used to winning seasons, bowl games, 10 true freshmen, including the starting running back Agnew. That's a school record. 8 starting true freshmen and a redshirt freshman quarterback, Sean Mannion, who has thrown 13 interceptions this year. Play action on second down from Mannion, completing to James Rogers downfield near the 45. James Rogers, the brother of Jaquiz, the great Oregon State running back, now with the Atlanta Falcons.
But on top of those interceptions, he's also thrown for nearly 2,300 yards. Mike Riley really likes this kid for that reason. Feels like he throws a beautiful ball, a lot like Derek Anderson. The fact that he's a redshirt freshman, has been in here week in and week out, stayed healthy. Got to eliminate the mistakes, but he also, in Mike Riley's eyes, has an immense amount of upside.
Mannion to Rogers on the reverse. James Rogers with blockers in front. Picks up 5. It was Marcus Wheaton leading the way after the reverse.
Oregon State's found a little life here on the fly sweeps and the end arounds. That inside zone fake, you're trying to suck in the edge players, effective there. This is what Stanford does well. They pursue. You're going to get 2, 3, 4 cardinal around the football.
Mannion goes under center for second down and 5. Play fake. Complete. Anderson out of the backfield, stopped short, bringing up third down.
And this is a really big third down. Now, Oregon State has it in a situation where Stanford was many times. Third and very manageable. And actually a place that Mike Riley's Beavers have been successful this season. Nearly 70% in 3rd and 6 or less. And coming out of the locker room, I can't tell you how much it means to a young team and all those freshmen and everything else to look at that scoreboard down 10. And if you can put a drive together and score points, even a field goal out of halftime, it can really build you into the second half.
Play fake again on third down. Mannion heaving long. It is caught inside the 10. 5 knocked out inside the 5 is Joe Halohooney, the senior H-back. 42-yard gain on third down and 2.
And what a fantastic call from Danny Langsdorff. I told you that area of the field between the 35 and 50, you'll find coordinators love to take shots. And the fact on 3rd and 2, maybe he played it conservatively and punted earlier in the game on the 4th down. Well, this time on a 3rd and 2, you get it to your X factor, your big playmaking tight end.
That's Langsdorff on the far right side of that box in the middle of your screen.
Timeout. Stanford. Their first of the half.
A Cardinal timeout. Beaver ball, 1st and goal.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers.
On the Dr. Pepper road to the championships at rainy Reser Stadium in Corvallis, Oregon. Over the past decade, 5 top 10 teams have lost on this field. 4th-ranked undefeated Stanford, with the nation's longest winning streak, has a 10-point lead, but it's 1st and goal for the Beavers. On first down, Agnew sneaking his way near the goal line, just short of the end zone. 2nd and goal. Perry and Tarpley stopping. That looks like a touchdown to me.
That sure does. And if you're Oregon State here, you want to make sure this replay booth gets a good look at that, because Agnew looked like he stretched that ball across before the knee hit.
And now they'll take a look. You think that's a veteran coach, Mike Riley?
The previous play of down by rule is under further review.
Milking that play clock, and now the replay booth will look to see if Agnew breaks the plane here.
Love the effort of the true freshman. Yeah, I think clearly I don't see any part of that body down before the ball crosses. Remember, it's not just that knee. It's the elbow down before the ball crosses as well. I think he breaks the plane before that left elbow's down. Clearly before the knee. The key is that elbow, that left elbow, as he's stretching that football out in his right arm. And by the way, this is the Ray Agnew that played 11 years in the NFL, that's now a scout with St. Louis. It was a defensive lineman, right? A defensive lineman who's got a 190-pound son that's a running back and a true freshman running like a big fella in the middle.
Now, Brock, if this is a touchdown, or if Oregon State gets points on the board, your early third quarter in what would be a one-score game, Mike Riley, who has been through games like this before, says it'll take a long time to beat this Stanford team. Yes, in the game, but a long way to go.
After further review, the ruling is touchdown.
Call is reversed. Touchdown, Oregon State. And the giant-killing Beavers have another one in their sights.
And the emphasis there that you're alluding to is the fact you got to finish. You can't just be close. And USC was close a week ago. But Stanford proved their mettle that you've got to beat them for 60 minutes and maybe even into a double or triple overtime. It's not just getting close in the third quarter. It's finishing throughout the length of the game.
Well, like the legendary Tom Moore said, the team who plays the hardest, the longest wins. And yet, Oregon State has a kick blocked to make it 17-13, taking this from a one-score game back to a two-score game.
Now, this could be a tie game. Let's remember, a 50-yard field goal before the half was blocked by Colby Fleener. You see Ben Gardner, I believe. Ben Gardner, the defensive end that forced the critical fumble a week ago in triple overtime against USC. How big will that point be here down the stretch?
Right on cue, Mike Riley in that discussion saying, well, we can be in the football game. We can make plays. We can be close. But in order to pull off another upset over a top 10, it's going to take a long time to beat them.
Remember back to that USC game in particular in 08, I referenced Jaquiz Rogers. It was four-quarter beatdown. That wasn't fluke. That wasn't Statue of Liberty. That was a zone play that USC, you know what, you're not going to stop it. We're going to run it at you from beginning to end. See the conversation with the special teams coach. This could be a tie game. We could very easily here. If they would not have bungled the operation before half, you get into range that much further. In a block PAT, you could be looking at 17-17. There were some that said, no chance for the Beavers today. I think they're showing you when you come into this place in November, cold, wet, damp, emotional game a week ago for Stanford, Oregon looming. Stanford's in for a fight.
How does the rain affect this game in the second half?
I don't think it has played a role to this point. As many balls as they shuttle in and out of here and keep it dry. And more importantly, look at the flags. I always say this, the rain's one thing. You can deal with it.
Please reset the clock to 11:59. 11:59.
The delay there is the referee, Lan Clark, says reset to 11:59.
More importantly, look at no wind. I mean, this is dead calm in here this afternoon. So I don't think for either of these teams, for Oregon State, the practice is in it, or as many seniors and key seniors that you have on David Shaw's football team, a little wet rain is going to affect the outcome of this one.
Stanford has lost 8 of its last 9 trips to the state of Oregon. Now, you go back in the Stanford annals just a few years, it's a very different team from the top 10 Cardinal that we know over the past couple of years. But historically, Stanford struggling heading to Oregon. Montgomery across the 25. College football primetime presented by Hampton Hotels tonight. Steve Spurrier in the 9th-ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. He has a top 10 matchup against 7th-ranked Arkansas, 7:15 Eastern on ESPN. Gamecocks without Marcus Lattimore for the rest of the year.
Probably the quietest 9 versus 7 in the history of college football. And I guess maybe 1 and 2 playing down the road in Tuscaloosa has something to do with that.
And 3rd-ranked Oklahoma State against Kansas State as well. Luck play action on 1st down. Andrew Luck rolling, throwing to Griff Whalen at the 40-yard line, moving the chains. 1st and 10 on the first possession of the second half for Luck and the Cardinals.
You want to know why Andrew came back to school as well? Continue to refine those fundamentals. You can't do it any better than that. The weight going at the target, that's like a 5-yard pass instead of a 25-yard pass. He makes it look that easy, and those fundamentals, the basics, so critical to developing that kind of consistency.
Handing off on 1st down to Stephon Taylor. Straight ahead, there's another flag down.
You can see the signal clearly from the umpire. This is going to be a hold.
Holding on the offense, number 54. A 10-yard penalty, 1st down.
And that's the power play that Stanford runs from how many different personnel groups and formations. And this is a left guard I referenced earlier. They love the growth of David Yankee, the redshirt freshman himself. You get those hands outside of the frame, it's a giveaway every time.
Just the 2nd penalty today against the Cardinals.
Back-to-back weeks, both USC and Oregon State doing a pretty good job of handling all that power run.
Luck from the shotgun, complete across the 40-yard line to get that penalty yardage back. It's Taylor who makes the grab and fights to the 43. And again, the Stanford offense without leading receiver Chris Owusu. Concussion at a hospital, full range of motion. Any further update, we'll pass it along. Levine Toilolo has not re-entered the game.
Personal foul, hands to the face on the offense, number 77. A 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
How about that?
Correction, 2nd down.
Back-to-back penalties against Stanford. That's on Mabry, who's filling in for the injured right tackle, Cameron Fleming.
Pep Hamilton, when I asked him what happened against USC a week ago, and he said, well, our formula for success, and David Shaw as well, limit mistakes, no excuses. And I love what Pep said. He said, that friendly fire caught up with us against USC, and right now a holding call, a personal foul in a game that Oregon State is starting to believe. The fans, the players, there's a sense of belief. You don't want to do that to a heavy underdog. It hurts yourself like Stanford is on this drive.
On 1st and Portland. 2nd. 1st and Portland. Whalen with a great grab to the 38. How about Griff Whalen? And how about a throw? Brock, how difficult a throw is that from Luck?
Contrast that to the 1st quarter throws. Contrast that to when he was holding on that ball just a little bit, wanting to see his receivers open. He lets that one go. You could see you can't throw it any better than that.
21-yard pickup on 1st down. It is still 2nd down and 14. Stewart gets it on 2nd down, and amazingly, Stanford is back to 3rd down and short.
Methodical. And once again, that's your power play. That's your pulling guard, Yankee. And I really enjoyed my conversation yesterday with Mark Banker, defensive coordinator at Oregon State, talking about how to defeat that play, the penetration over on that wing alignment with the pulling guard, making sure you set the wall. They've done a pretty good, admirable job with a lot of young kids. But this is the down. This is the one that Mark Banker knows. If they're going to find a way to win, they've got to limit Stanford to a 7 to 10 in the critical 3rd down situations in the 1st half.
From 1st and 35 to 3rd and 4. Luck, batted and almost intercepted again. Lance Mitchell nearly had the 2nd interception of the day on Andrew Luck, who had thrown 4 all year.
Lance Mitchell has been a difference maker for the Beavers, and you see the frustration with Andrew Luck. That's behind him. That is a throw late that if he throws that in the same nature that he threw the Whalen corner earlier, well, Fleener may still be running. Instead, he gives Mitchell the opportunity to undercut that underthrown and late pass. We got a ball game, folks.
We also have a flag. False start. So at the beginning of this drive,
False start on the offense, number 88. A 5-yard penalty, still fourth down.
Stanford had 1 penalty on the day, 3 on this drive. How much of that relates to personnel changes across the board offensively for the Cardinals?
Well, if it was a receiver or another tight end, I'd give you that. That's your left guard that's making his 9th start this season. That's Tyler Mabry, your offensive tackle. That's been your 6th offensive tackle that started and filled in this game. Bev Hamilton said no excuses. David Child's not going to make excuses. I think if you asked David Child before this game kicked off, he would have told you, well, there's definitely going to be a chance. They've got to play good ball. And right now, Oregon State is outplaying Stanford.
Boyer, fair catch inside the 10. Andrew Luck and 4th-ranked Stanford in trouble at Oregon State.
ESPN's College Football on ABC. Brought to you by Verizon 4G LTE, America's fastest, most reliable 4G network. And Chrysler, imported from Detroit.
Where's Waldo Hall? Corvallis, built in 1907, thought to be the home of the ghost of Ida Kidder. So it's a good thing we brought the Keymaster with us here to Corvallis. The nation's longest winning streak is in trouble at Oregon State. 4th-ranked Stanford has won 16 straight, including the triple overtime win a week ago at USC. Andrew Luck has thrown just his 5th interception of the season. And the redshirt freshman quarterback for Oregon State, Sean Mannion, now has more passing yards than Luck does. Oregon State takes over within its own 10 at Rainey Reser Stadium. Play action on first down. Halahoody again, who had the 42-yarder on the scoring drive last time for Oregon State.
And Andrew Luck has not been real sharp this afternoon. He started on the very first drive with an overthrow, and really from that point, the challenge has been underthrown. Critical mistake there, an interception in his own territory. A miss here on 3rd down. He's just not consistently playing with the level of anticipation we're used to.
First down from the 20. That's Rogers in motion. James Rogers takes it. James Rogers, positive gain. We check in with Robert Forrest.
Carter, Nebraska started the day in a 3-way tie for first in the Big Ten Legends Division, but they are trailing at home to Northwestern. They get closer when Taylor Martinez hits Tim Marlowe, but still trailing 14-10 at home in the 3rd.
16 straight wins for Stanford. 8-0 on the year. Stanford trying to get to 9-0 for the first time since 1951. And yet this is turning into one of those games, Brock. There seems to be a recipe on the road, in between a tough one on the road at USC and a big matchup next week against Oregon. Andrew Luck, not his sharpest game. It's raining. A young Beaver team, and Mike Riley says he believes. Another first down for Oregon State. Oregon State has a history of knocking up top 10 teams, ranked teams. 6 straight years Oregon State has knocked off a ranked team. 5 times in the past decade, a top 10 team has lost here at Reser Stadium in Corvallis. The nation's longest winning streak at 16 for Stanford. That's a good one on first down there. Agnew dropped for a loss by Terrence Stevens.
I'll tell you why, in my opinion, Mike Riley's been able to do that year in and year out, and that is because as the season evolves, typically his teams get better. They improve, they work, they develop. I said yesterday, I don't think I've ever seen a Friday walkthrough. It wasn't a walkthrough, it was a dead-on sprint. It was crisp. It was 30 of 31 passing in their team periods. This team is still very young and working really hard.
This is an Oregon State team who lost 27-8 a week ago at Utah. That's incomplete, and that's a miss. Brandon Cooks, one of the 10 true freshmen out there for the Beavers, drops that to make it 3rd and 11.
It was, but it's also a team that you look over the last 4 games that handled Washington State up in Seattle and really outplayed them and handled them, where Mannion had a career day. It's a team that beat up on Arizona here at home, that has split over their last 4. I think building a sense of belief as this afternoon's involved.
And then on 3rd and 11, right back to Cooks. He slips out of the tackle, and Cooks has a first down the sideline. Cooks knocks over one of the officials as he steps out of bounds. There is a flag on the play, and unfortunately, the side judge goes down as well. But how about the play call after Cooks drops that play on 2nd down to go right back to him? And unfortunately, the side judge took a nasty spill. That's Bernie Holscher, the side judge.
Well, it's been a physical afternoon for everybody. Oregon State, Stanford, and now the Zebras as well. I love the call. I love these screens. When you're playing an active Stanford team, especially one that likes to blitz on 3rd down.
Holding on the offense, number 2. 10-yard penalty will be enforced from the spot of the foul. 3rd down.
When you play an aggressive group like that, these screens can be very, very effective.
Side judge who throws the flag, then gets, that's a tough tumble, and that's tough on the field turf. That's tough. So that's a 30-yard pass play wiped out by the hold on Marcus Wheaton.
We took a look earlier. Oregon State on the big pass play to Halahuni, the center, maybe got away with a little bit of a hold, and this time on what would have been a 3rd down conversion.
Oh, wow. Where's a hold? And again, as you said, Brock, there's a hold earlier that wasn't called. That did not look like a hold at all. Wiping out a 30-yard completion, 3rd and 7 again. Mannion throwing, incomplete. So the Beavers will punt. Ben Gardner bringing the pressure on Mannion.
And Gardner stepping up. He had to block PAT earlier. That time forces the incomplete pass. I'm hoping they misidentify. That can happen at times with a number, because that was not in any way, shape, or form a holding call on Marcus Wheaton. And Marcus is pleading his case. You'll see on the film tomorrow, Coach, I'm sorry. I did not grab. They had looked that way as the Stanford defender fell to the ground. Not a hold.
Johnny Hecker manages to handle the high snap and put off another good punt. So plays dead. Apparently Terrell's knee was down around the 20, or at least that is apparently the call. Nonetheless, the play is dead. We will sort it out as Luck and the Cardinal take the field. In Corvallis, Oregon, 4th-ranked undefeated Stanford, the nation's longest winning streak, on the line. Cardinals 17, Beavers 13. Carter Blackburn with Brock Hewitt, ESPN on ABC Crew. Andrew Luck under center on 1st down. Gives to Stephon Taylor, who wiggles his way to near the 25. Let's go back to what was called a fair catch, Brock.
And go ahead, you do this every time very well. Read it by rule, please.
A valid signal is a signal given by a player of Team B who has obviously signaled his intention by extending one hand clearly above his head. One hand only clearly above his head.
You see Drew Terrell there pointing out, I'm setting up my blockers. I'm identifying for my blockers what to do. These referees have had a tough 2.5 quarters. Let's hope they find their game in the final 20 minutes.
Out of the eye on 2nd down. Taylor has a 1st down and more. Busting across the 45 and near midfield.
And speaking of finding your game, when push comes to shove, you know what great teams have? They have an identity to fall back on. Stanford's identity over the last 3 years, even with Andrew Luck, has been a run first 59% of the time. Would not surprise me at all if we see Taylor, Gaffney, Wilkerson, Stewart really featured on what's become a really big drive midway through the 3rd quarter.
206 rushing yards now for Stanford, near their average of 215. Play action on first down from the 50. Luck pressured as he throws, incomplete.
You know what you have not seen all afternoon, really? Wide open receivers. We have done a number of Stanford games. You watching have seen Stanford. Remember the Orange Bowl last year where seemingly no one was covering anyone? That is not the case today. A number of these incompletions and these misfires and some of the late throws have really been a byproduct of Oregon State covering down these tight ends on the back end, keeping everything in front of them very well.
Back to the ground. Taylor. Stiff arm. Taylor to make it third down and short after a heck of a run for the junior from Mansfield, Texas. The stiff arm leaping over another defender.
Oh. Stephon Taylor in some ways is South Carolina, Arkansas, isn't he? The fact that you have Andrew Luck in the Heisman contender, his roughly 2,600 career yards and 25 touchdowns, people don't put him in the conversation near enough when you're talking about what Stanford's done in the last 2 years.
Nobody but Andrew Luck, really, putting him in that conversation. Luck throwing on third down and short, completed. Drew Terrell moving the chains near the 35.
And right when I talked about guys not running open, Stanford does a really nice thing outside. You'll see this in football. They stack their wide receivers. And when you just stack those two guys and you create a very different picture for those Oregon State Beavers, and a little pick and a little rub coming off that clean by the book, you can create some open receivers. That's where your formation and your scheme starts to help develop and help your quarterback find some open space to throw to.
There's no such thing as a pick play in football. Play action on first down. Luck throwing, caught, barely making. The fullback manages to corral it. Cameron Collins on the stop. Andrew Luck, who grew up early in Germany, finished high school in Stanford. Father Oliver Luck, now the athletic director of West Virginia, was an executive in the World League. Oliver told me that he began to see Andrew's vision even before football, but playing soccer and basketball in Germany. Just that special vision spatially in the heat of a competition. This is Stewart. After contact, stretching for another first down to the 22.
Worth pointing out a couple things here as we're nearing the fourth quarter. Number one, we play a college football game that's still determined by style points. There still is a fact that there are pollsters involved, the Harris poll, the other voters, the coaches, the AP poll, the computers don't decide this whole BCS. And with about 15 minutes in the fourth quarter, 3 minutes in this third quarter, some style points may start to...
Prior to the snap, false start on the offense, number 66, a 5-yard penalty, first down.
Become that much more important for David Shaw as they're trying to jump a couple teams in that top 5. Secondly, that LSU and Alabama game has a certain running back by the name of Trent Richardson that's really the only guy I think close to Andrew Luck in this Heisman conversation. So some style points on the most inefficient day for Andrew that we have seen. And a running back tonight against an LSU team at home that may have an opportunity to capitalize on it.
Luck's pass is caught, and Taylor will waltz into the end zone for a touchdown. Stanford puts some distance between the Cardinal and the Beavers on the second touchdown pass of the day, 27 yards. Luck to Taylor.
You want to know how a coach can help a quarterback and help your offense? Well, I showed you earlier with that little pick play, that little stack. Watch this situation with the running back coming out, been in the flat, been in the flat, been in the flat. Not that time. A really well-called, well-timed play there by Pep Hamilton and David Shaw.
Just the second receiving touchdown of the year for Taylor. Well, if fourth-ranked Stanford is going to move up there's going to have to be a loss if the Cardinal have a chance at playing for the national championship, and the team just ahead of Stanford in the BCS, third-ranked Oklahoma State against Kansas State tonight on ABC, or Notre Dame versus Wake Forest, a future Stanford opponent in the Notre Dame Irish. Both games available nationally on either ABC or ESPN2. You can also catch it on the Watch ESPN app. It's Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines.
Look what Oklahoma State's done. I have a hard time thinking that Kansas State's going to be able to keep up with the Cowboys tonight. And everyone wants to look at that defense of Oklahoma State, right? Oh, they give up so many yards. They're over 100th worst ranked defense in America. Don't lose sight of that bottom line on that graphic. Plus 19 in turnovers. Exactly what the University of Oregon did a year ago with a defense that gave up a pile of yards when they marched all the way to the national championship game.
Andrew Luck goes 3 for 4 for 43 yards on that last drive for Stanford. Second touchdown pass of the game to go with his one interception. Celebrating with his teammates after the touchdown drive. Kick will go out of bounds, so Oregon State will get it at the 40. Let's take a look at our Good Hands play presented by Allstate.
Colby Fleener got the first. The really athletic 6'6" tight end going up and getting a field goal. And Ben Gardner, all he does is make plays. 6.5 tackles for loss on the season. Caused that fumble against USC a week ago. Got his hands up, got the penetration to block the PAT.
The constant Gardner.
There you go.
Sean Mannion, the redshirt freshman from the East Bay under center. Play fake, pressure. Mannion finds the receiver. It's incomplete.
And one of the first times defensively we've called the name of our impact player, Chase Thomas. I said to you, prototypical in his length of those 3-4 outside linebackers you love to have. That time he feasted on the freshman running back trying to block him, forcing the incomplete pass. And he's a guy, by the way, when you look ahead to Oregon and Notre Dame, with Shane Scove out of this front seven, he has to be a difference maker for them down the stretch.
Mannion pressured and sacked. Trent Murphy gets to Mannion. Fourth sack of the year for the junior from Phoenix, Trent Murphy, who lists one of his hobbies as steer wrestling.
That is Colin Kelly, your right tackle, your redshirt junior. That is a start to yell at your quarterback as the D-end linebacker is passing you. Look out block.
Oregon State has converted on third down and very long in this game. Pressured again, sacked again. Football appears to be loose. Chase Thomas gets to Mannion on third and long as the Cardinal defense begins to pin its ears back, and now they have a takeaway.
You love the courage. You love the toughness of your redshirt freshman to stand in there, seemingly not feeling that pass rush, but you also must have an awareness and clock in your head with a defense like Stanford in those third down situations. It's as good as anybody in America. It's sacking the quarterback. 9th this year in the FBS with 25 sacks. So I add a couple more to that list. And Mike Riley loves the courage of his redshirt freshman. But you've also got to be smart there, avoid the sack, the turnover, and throw that ball away.
Massive Philo gets the recovered fumble after the sack by Chase Thomas. So Andrew Luck and the Stanford offense, best field position of the day inside the 25. Go right back to the ground. This is Tyler Gaffney, the junior from San Diego.
One of the key components in that sack, the reason the Mannion's holding the ball, Stanford decides to go a little man-to-man. Enough of this zone coverage. You tell me where to throw the ball. Look at this. 1, 2, 3. Everybody, man coverage, nowhere to throw the ball. A lot of zone outlets earlier in this game. Critical juncture, they go man. They get home, and they force the takeaway.
There's Riley tackling with his redshirt freshman quarterback man. Luck from the shotgun. Luck pressure, scrambling. Luck inside the 20. Luck darts out of bounds just past the first down marker with 58 seconds left before the fourth.
In my opinion, one of the reasons that Christian Ponder went number 12 to the Vikings, Jake Locker went number 8 to the Titans, Blaine Gabbert went number 10 to Jacksonville a year ago. Those are top 12 quarterback picks. We're nowhere near the production of this guy, but all three of them ran very well in their workouts. And Andrew Luck will also. 4'5", 4'6", 40 at 240 pounds, showing you once again the caliber of athlete he is.
Play fake. Luck to the end zone. Touchdown, Stanford. Fleener makes the grab. In the third quarter, this was a 4-point game. Mike Riley said it'll take a long time to beat a team like Stanford. Back-to-back touchdown passes from Andrew Luck. And they're pulling away.
Such an advantage when your 6'6" tight end can run like a gazelle. I mean, he runs 4.6. I just talked about the speed of Andrew Luck. Colby Fleener can really go. You see him outrunning those safeties, and Luck has been at his best, really, throwing accurately on the run this afternoon.
When we had a conversation with David Shaw earlier this week, we asked him, what do people still not get about your football team? He said, number one, we're more than just Andrew Luck. But number two, Andrew Luck is better than people think. Adversity last week at USC, the late pick six, comeback. Adversity on the road, struggling, interception, missed throws, and now Luck, back-to-back touchdown drives, back-to-back touchdown passes, and you're going to the fourth quarter, and this is looking from an upset bid against Stanford to a game that appears to be turning into their favor.
And all of a sudden, those style points start to climb right back up, and you say, yeah, this guy is really good. Now I see what people are getting. I'll tell you, Trent Dilfer says all the time, Trent Dilfer, he of the QBR rating system, will say, I judge a quarterback in adversity. That's what the NFL is built on. Don't give me Wake Forest 62-10. Don't give me Duke. Don't give me San Jose State. No offense to those schools. I want to see Andrew Luck against USC, the game on the line. I want to see Andrew Luck on a wet, cold November day where some of his key cogs are knocked out of the game. How does he respond to those adverse situations? And if there were any questions left to be answered, well, Andrew's answered them over the last 2 weeks.
Squib kick. Oregon State will take it at the 25 after the last one went out of bounds. 35 seconds left in the third, Oregon State football, and now the Beavers need to put together a scoring drive to stay in this game headed to the fourth.
Yeah, speaking of adversity, that's exactly where Oregon State now finds himself. As you just said minutes ago, this was a 4-point game before Stanford starts to step on the gas, force their will physically, both offensively and defensively, and now Mike Riley needs his redshirt freshman to step up in an adverse situation.
First down, Rogers makes the grab. There's James Rogers staying inbounds, shaking his way to near a first down. Spoke with James Rogers earlier this week about coming back from that injury. He says, yeah, I know, so I'm still fast. I'm not as fast as I was, but he feels like he's become a better route runner, both through standing on the sideline, taking in more of the offense, and by necessity, having to become a better route runner without the blinding speed that he used to possess. Also says he took a lot of solace in the weight room during his knee injury. Apparently, will be the final play of the fourth quarter. It was a 4-point game. Stanford begins to pull away as we head to the fourth. ESPN's presentation of college football on ABC will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
He wants to go deep. He's got his man into the end zone. Touchdown. What a play. Andrew Luck put it right where it needed to be.
That's voice of the Cardinal, Dave Fleming, who you will be hearing from a lot on the ESPN networks during college basketball season. And that, of course, is Andrew Luck. The pitcher, Brian Wilson, was on game day today. What do they say about pitchers? Sometimes you have to win when you don't have your best stuff. That could apply to Andrew Luck today on the road at Corvallis. Teron Ward, another of those true freshmen for Oregon State, one of 10 to play for the Beavers on a critical drive for Oregon State if there's any shot of an upset bid in the fourth quarter.
I think that is excellent analysis and really spot on today. It's not been easy for Andrew Luck. Torlolo's out, Ertz is out. A lot of what they want to do, I think, offensively, they've had to reshuffle a little bit over the last few weeks. How about that third quarter for Andrew? Game gets tight, 6 of 8, 2 touchdowns.
Mannion down the middle, caught in Stanford territory. So we check in with Robert Flores.
All right, Carter. Nebraska started the day in a three-way tie for first in the Big Ten Legends Division, but they are trailing to Northwestern. Kane Coulter in for Dan Persa. Up top to Jeremy Ebert, 81 yards. And look at this, Nebraska up on number 10, or Northwestern up on number 10, Nebraska, 21-10, fourth quarter.
Right through the redshirt defense for Nebraska. Mannion pressured again. This time he finds his check down. It's incomplete, intended for Ward. Remember, Mannion was sacked twice on the last possession by Oregon State. This was a game with 5.5 minutes to go in the third. Stanford led only by 4. And Andrew Luck, back-to-back touchdown drives. The second one off the sack fumble from Mannion on the short field. 4 points to 18 points. That's what 2 touchdowns are. Mannion to Rogers, who is drilled as soon as he gets it by Johnson Batamosi, the senior corner.
You've seen a little change here, I think, in the second half from Stanford defensively. A little bit more man-to-man coverage. If you need to start to force the issue a little bit defensively, well, don't just play that soft zone coverage. Allow those fly sweeps. Allow those underneath shallow crosses. Allow Oregon State to find a little rhythm. A little bit more man-to-man this second half, and I think it's helped this secondary.
Throwing on 3rd and 7, it's incomplete. Intended for the dragging Marcus Wheaton. Well, if he grabs that ball, is turning upfield for first down.
Well, we've seen already a couple of these today, and Mike Riley made that point to us yesterday. Sean Mannion's completed 65% of his passes this season. And last week in Salt Lake City alone, they counted 10 drops on that game tape. And we've seen a few of those today. Marcus Wheaton had one earlier. That on 3rd down that may have moved the chains. A young quarterback, a young team can ill afford those kind of errors.
A drive that Oregon State needed to score points on ends up in another punt from Hecker. Down to round the 5. Cardinal and Andrew Luck back on the field when we come back.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers.
Dr. Pepper road to the championships. Maybe those Beaver bikes will be heading to one of the championships. It is not going to be the Beavers competing in the Pac-12 championship. Stanford trying to keep that in line. This will be the first year of the Pac-12 championship game. Stanford is 8-0 on the season, 6-0 in the Pac-12 North Division. Andrew Luck handing off to Tyler Gaffney on first down. Our Pacific Life game summary shows that when Stanford was in trouble in the third quarter, leading only by 4, Andrew Luck was at his best.
And the defense helps out, forces the critical turnover there, the sack fumble. That's what champions do. They play their best ball when the game gets tough.
On 2nd down, Gaffney close to the first down marker. Bring up 3rd and very short.
How many times have we said that today? 3rd and very short. And that will be the recipe if they're going to make the run that Oregon did a year ago. When they face the Ducks next week at home, in the next 3 weeks for Stanford, all at home.
The longest third down that Stanford has faced in this game, 3rd down and 6, which was on the last possession by the Cardinals. Stewart takes it. Patch has a 1st down. Move the chains. And the clock rolls.
How can we not sit here and watch and just think back to our conversation with Jim Harbaugh a season ago?
Yeah.
When Bo Schembechler, whose picture was right above his office seat there, and David Shaw carrying on really the legacy that Jim had built here, and that's the fullback. When Bo Schembechler called Jim and said, hey, you can have a tight end? Yeah, coach, I'll have a tight end. Hand on the ground? Yes, go ahead and hand on the ground. Fullback? Yep. Hand on the ground? Yep. Okay, then you'll be just fine. And they certainly have been under Jim Harbaugh and now David Shaw.
Back to the ground game on 1st down. That's Gaffney. Minimal gain here. Brock, you played in what was then known as the Pac-10. Remember those days when it was called the Pac-10? Against the Stanford Cardinal. How different a team is this version of Stanford?
Night and day. And I told the story before about a recruiting trip, my recruiting trip to Bill Walsh and Stanford. And having grown up in the Pacific Northwest with the University of Washington, where it was all about the weight room and developing. And I remember taking my trip to Stanford and not seeing helmets beat up like that, not seeing a weight room with weight and chalk and tape and weights being thrown around. Well, it is now. These are physical guys.
That's Wilkerson on 2nd down. Turning the corner, moving the chains to the 30.
And further, what really stands out to me, Carter, look back to the last 15 years. I went and studied this week. Spent a little time digging this up. 15 years, Stanford had one offensive lineman drafted in the first 5 rounds. Kwame Harris, 1st-round pick to the 49ers. In the last 15 years, no other lineman drafted in the 5 rounds of the NFL draft. That guy, 55, that's Jonathan Moose Martin. Right now on the big board, he's anywhere from 5 to 10. Right guard, All-American David DeCastro. Well, he's also a 1st-round pick. You're going to have 2 first-round offensive linemen come out of Stanford. I think that speaks volumes to how different they are.
Cameron Collins, the senior for Oregon State, stuffs that run, tackled for loss to make it 2nd down and long.
And you know what's an important, and maybe the most important piece, that guy, the centerpiece, loves that identity of running the football first, playing the game physically. This isn't, I need my stats, I need to throw touchdowns, I need to be the Heisman winner. No, it's, I love the fact that we run the ball first, that we break down people's will physically, that we run it 59% of the time in my career on the farm. He embraces it, he loves it. That's the way that Andrew wants to play the game.
On 2nd and 12, Luck pressure. Rolling, throwing downfield. Is it caught by Whalen? Close. Is there a call? There's still not a call. Okay, so that's a catch. Apparently, Andrew Luck took a shot.
Personal foul, roughing the passer on the defense, number 5. Contact to the helmet. That 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the completion. 1st down.
That's Cameron Collins, and again, just as the rule book says,
that's dirty. There's no question about that one. That one is right to the chin of the quarterback. In fact, that's pretty cheap. That's frustration as well. And look at Andrew, like, don't you love that class? He's not in his face. Hey, let the scoreboard do the talking. Let my execution do the talking. That's a pretty cheap play. That's not what Mike Riley represents in any way, shape, and form.
So it's a 20-yard catch, tacking on a 15-yard penalty. Clock rolling to 9 minutes left. And what was with 5.5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, a tight, tough football game where Andrew Luck and the Stanford Cardinal is now becoming another Pac-12 game where the Cardinal pull away and the scoreboard may eventually, there's a lot of time left in this game, the scoreboard may eventually show Stanford with another quote-unquote runaway win, easy win. That wasn't like that for the better part of 3 quarters in Corvallis, which is why Mike Riley said it'll take a long time to beat this team. We can be in the game. It can be a tight game. It's going to take a long time to beat a team as good as Stanford. Gaffney near another first down. Remember, this is the nation's longest winning streak here for Stanford. It's 16 games. So if the Cardinal can pull away and win this, it would go to 17. Road record, 7-0. How difficult is that?
Very impressive. And it's that mentality of being able to go and finish games. And to be honest with you, it's why it sets up such an incredible heavyweight bout next week down on the farm. Oregon is a team built for the second half. Stanford's a team that's built to wear you down in the second half. That's going to be must-see football next weekend.
Close. Collins over the top to make this apparently 4th down. Close. First down, Stanford. Second effort. So second effort there by Gaffney? Apparently so. Good enough.
Look at that drive now at 5.5 minutes. Exactly what David Shaw wanted to see in this 4th quarter. Finish strong, be a champion. Out of the last road game of the year, get home for your final 3 weeks.
On the 11th play of the drive, just the 3rd pass of the drive is complete to Hewitt inside the 15. Move the chains again, and now we can begin to think about Oregon versus Stanford, 8 Eastern next week. Stanford is apparently going to take care of business on the road. Oregon has what you would think is a much tougher test tonight at Husky Stadium.
And Mike Riley said it best to us yesterday. He said, just look at those 2 teams. Polar opposites in so many ways, yet that bottom graphic, the rush yards a game, that's what they're about. Oregon does it with basketball and grass, spreading every inch of the field. Stanford does it condensing that line of scrimmage. 6 linemen. Look at yet again another goal line formation, get their yards between the tackles.
First down, Gaffney to the 10. You know, reading the Stanford blog on ESPN.com, written by the sharp-dressed Kevin Gemmel, had a long discussion about the Stanford defense, and people keep wanting to point to the Stanford defense and saying that not good enough to slow Oregon, not good enough to win the Pac-12, not good enough to contend for a national championship. What do you think about the strength of the Stanford defense? Is it strong enough to carry Stanford into those top echelons?
Well, that's Big Ben Gardner, your defensive end. We've seen Terrence Stevens, 99, your nose guard. Those guys, I think, have been a lot better than I thought coming into this season. Inexperienced and young, pretty stout. You've also got to remember, as Gaffney finishes this one off, that they're doing all of this without Shane Scove this season as well. Their best defensive player. Let's look at Stanford play defense at home the last 3 weeks as well, because most defenses tend to play a little better at home than they do on the road.
Gaffney following the block of David DeCastro into the end zone to make this 37-13. What was a 4-point game. Now with 3 straight touchdown drives, this one goes 13 plays, 95 yards for the touchdown in the nation's longest winning streak, 607 away, moving to 17 straight wins.
ESPN's College Football on ABC, brought to you by K Jewelers, the #1 jewelry store in America. Every kiss begins with K. Lexus, it's time to engineer amazing. And Taco Bell, think outside the bun.
Might say put a bird's nest on it. Rocky, you want to explain that one?
Now, that's artist Patrick Doherty, who builds large temporary structures by weaving together countless limbs and stems from the local trees. You know that he's created more than 200 installations around the world, and this creation is here at Oregon State on the west side of Gibson Hall.
Right there, right off the top of his head from Brock Heward, the academic all Pac-10 as well. Academic All-American, Brock Heward?
No.
Yeah, I guarantee you Andrew Luck didn't know that. Well, a rainy day at Reeser, and the Beaver fans were hoping for another upset like they have seen 5 times in the past 10 years here. The big one in 2008 against #1 USC, but it is starting to empty out on a Saturday afternoon here in Corvallis, as Andrew Luck and the Stanford Cardinal have taken a tight game in the 3rd and turned it into a potential blowout in the 4th. We check in with Robert.
All right, Carter, tight game in Lincoln, Nebraska. Gets a touchdown from Rex Burkhead. They went for 2 and got it. Northwestern leading by 3 late in the 4th quarter, but they're inside the 2 of Nebraska right now.
Well, that top 10 team in trouble at home. This top 10 team, Stanford, how about that grab? Wheaton makes a great grab on a tough throw from Sean Mannion.
Wheaton showing you why he's an impact player and why Mike Riley's excited about his young quarterback. Really building towards next year now. It's well done through contact, looking the ball in. No question he secures the catch. You're talking about 10 true freshmen playing. Really your playmakers, your running backs, a true freshman, quarterback's a redshirt freshman. A lot of talent coming back here for years to come.
Mannion pressured again. Nearly picked. It's incomplete. Batamosi got 2 hands on it. Stanford defense trying to slow Mannion right now. We asked the question, as many folks have, is the Stanford defense good enough to slow Oregon to potentially be in a national championship type game? What do you think?
They need to get Delano Howell back as well. One of their best players. Their strong safety's out. And in the interim, some of the young kids have come in and done a nice job. I think Howell will come back here down the stretch. They need him. I'll tell you what else they need to do. To create more takeaways. That's the thing that just jumps out. A secondary, which is 4 interceptions and almost 5.
Nearly right on cue for Delano Howell's replacement, Devin Carrington.
I mean, they are fortunate their offense largely takes care of the ball. That's why they're +7 this season. The group on the back end here, when you play in Notre Dame, and that's a fantastic effort out of the true sophomore Carrington. You get into those big games, you need those takeaways. Let's face it, in this game in the 3rd quarter, that sack fumble was an enormous play in continuing the momentum for them. They're not what they were a year ago. I think at the end of the year last year, they were as good as anybody on that side of the ball. 5 shutouts, just stuffing people. They've got to be a little bit more proactive, I think, down the stretch if they're going to get to a title game.
Mannion finds Rogers, who's wrestled down, making it 4th down and 2, and what you would think would be automatic 4-down territory here.
He was sure fun to talk to yesterday, wasn't he, Coach Riley?
Boy, Brock, you said it, whether they're 6-2 or 2-6. Enjoyable, and talk about how much he's enjoying watching this young team. He knows they're young. He knows that this is a 2-6 football team. But still very, very encouraging about Oregon State. Rogers incomplete. And so it'll be Stanford football.
You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Kay Jewelers.
Mike Riley played at Alabama, played for the Bear. I asked him, what would Bear Bryant have to say to this Alabama team tonight in the 1 versus 2 matchup against LSU? So the Bear would tell him, show your class. Make your mamas and your papas proud. In that 1 versus 2 matchup tonight, Mike Riley said the thing he most admired about Bear Bryant, tough and fair. Riley was a walk-on guy, got put on scholarship late in his Alabama time, and he said that I have an empathy. This is Mike Riley saying this. I have an empathy for guys who are part of the program, not stars, not starters, maybe not even playing that much. Guys who are just out there practicing day in and day out. And that's a part of the culture here at Oregon State. Now, this is a Beaver team that's going to go to 2-7, but the culture here is building and developing. And while it may not be fun for the fans in a year like this, that's what's going on right now at Oregon State.
And it's why he's had success here, largely, because he knows to recruit to Corvallis is a challenge. He knows when you're going head-to-head with a Stanford in the Bay Area and USC and UCLA, what Steve Sarkisian is doing up the road in Seattle, and what the Ducks have done over in Eugene with their facilities and their program growth and their relevance. He knows that he has got to develop kids, got to develop walk-ons, and a big part of their success here over the last decade.
Brett Nottingham in at quarterback for Stanford. Anthony Wilkerson keeps his feet, has another first down, and takes a big hit to the 35. All right, Brock, 1 versus 2, Alabama, LSU, who wins?
It's going to be a really close game. And I can't imagine either team running away from the other. And I like LSU. And I thought Nick Saban said something really good today when he joined the game day set. They asked him kind of what Bear Bryant, along those Bear Bryant lines. What are you telling your team? He said, I'm telling them to keep their focus small and not big, because if you're singularly focused, if you have that tunnel vision on what you have got to do, you can function. If you start to take in everything, it's really difficult to do that. And I think when I look at that game and I just have a very strong focus on the strengths of the teams, I love what LSU is on the back end. I think their secondary is phenomenal, the best in football. So does Chip Kelly. They're going to put 9 guys around Trent Richardson all day long. They have been battle tested. They're tough. I think ultimately LSU gets the better of Alabama, even in Tuscaloosa.
How about Oregon-Washington tonight at the home of the Huskies?
Washington will face, I think, a similar challenge that Oregon State faced today, and that's weathering the storm for 4 quarters. It's what makes Andrew Luck and this Stanford team so difficult. The fact that you can't beat them for a quarter or a half or a third quarter. And Stanford's really shown here over the last 2 weeks. You got to do it for 60 minutes and sometimes even in that double and triple overtime. I think the Huskies are going to keep it close. I think the fact that it's the old Husky Stadium, emotionally the last game there, they've got a dynamic offense that will really challenge Oregon defensively. But until a team other than an SEC team beats Oregon and weathers it for 60 minutes, I still give them the benefit of the doubt. How about you, LSU, Alabama?
Boy, it's tough. I've always said I always take a Nick Saban team in a game like that, so I guess I'll stick with it. But it would be kind of fun to see LSU win that game for a multitude of reasons.
Prior to the snap, false start on the offense, number 76. A 5-yard penalty, still first down.
ABC Tuesday, the new night for big laughs with Tuesday's #1 comedy. It's Last Man Standing. Tim Allen, Last Man Standing, all new Tuesday, 8/7 Central on ABC.
Okay, before you officially pick Alabama, I asked you a question in the third quarter to help me define the look of Andrew Luck. See, an analyst, it's not always just these X's and O's. He kind of had that Amish thing going with the beard preseason. You look at Andrew Luck and what he kind of has that, I don't even know what you call that kind of beard, neck beard thing going. How do you define an Andrew Luck?
The look?
Yeah, just the game, the style. We talk style points with his Heisman.
Occupy the end zone.
Oh, look at that. That's what you came up with in a quarter and a half.
Occupy the #1 pick.
What some of that tells me, I just don't care. I'll have this kind of whole, who's the big neck beard guy in basketball, the center, Pau Gasol. I'll have this whole Pau Gasol growth kind of neck beard going on. I don't need to put a baseball cap and look pretty on the sidelines. We need Luck in Indianapolis. They need him in South Florida as well. He just doesn't really care about what anybody else says or thinks of him. That's why he came back to school.
Less than a minute to go. I got to ask you this one. You were Indianapolis. You were Peyton Manning's backup. Any shot that if Indianapolis has the #1 pick, they take Andrew Luck?
Only if Peyton can't play. But if he comes into the rest of this season and into February and March, and as he said, that this nerve is not back, that there is serious reservation and concern for his long-term health, I think that is the only way I can see them make that move. If he is healthy, if he's cleared, if he's practicing at the end of the year, then I think if they end up in that position, well, they're going to trade away that pick and get guys that can help Peyton get that organization back on track.
I love Andrew Luck there. Like David Shaw says, he is what he is.
Yeah.
A little bit goofy. He doesn't want the spotlight there. He is giving a thumbs up to his backup quarterback, Nottingham, into the game. You closed it out.
Yep.
The nation's longest winning streak will go to 17 games. Stanford survives in what was a tough test into the second half in the third quarter. Cardinal are 9-0, 7-0 in the Pac-12 North. With Oregon next week, Mike Riley's Beavers fall to 2-7 on the season. 38-13 the final. Stanford pulls away from Oregon State. For Brock Heward and our crew, I'm Carter Blackburn. Now let's head back to the studio. John Anderson and Jesse Palmer as Andrew Luck and fourth-ranked Stanford